Greetings, citizens of the interweb. Matt here, your hydro-powered ruler and guide to all things gaming and game development. I'm here this week to present yet another video, except this one's going to be a little bit different. If you've watched my channel before, you know that I generally upload devlogs for the open world RPG we're creating on the channel. But as I am slowly finishing up all of the bits of the game that need to be completed before the demo release, all that's really left is testing and bug fixing. I really don't think that those will make for good videos. So today, I want to try something new. While I work on some more long-form content in the background, I wanted to deliver on my promise of giving you guys a sneak peek on what goes on behind the curtain when it comes to being a self-employed game developer. Let me know in the comments below if you like this new type of video and if you'd like to see more. And before you ask, yes, absolutely, I will continue to work on Nightwatch and release devlogs, but as the list of things I need to do to finish the game gets shorter, I want to make sure you guys don't experience a content drought. So, without further ado, today we'll be covering the most important things to know before you make your first video game. I was 10 years old when I first started my game development journey. Back then, I was absolutely hooked on this game called RuneScape. I was so inspired by it that I wanted to create my own game just like it. So, I started writing my own game lore, creating worlds, and integrating them into the games I was playing with my friends. But it didn't stop there. I even started gamifying my life, assigning myself skill levels just like in RuneScape. If I did my homework, I'd level up my homework skill. If I managed to make a friend or talk to a girl, I'd level up my charisma. Though I'll admit I often neglected that level. As I got older, I took my writing, lore building, and drawing more seriously. By 15, I was modding Skyrim and trying to build my own worlds. Then, at 17, I took the leap and started building games in the Unreal Engine. My first game at 18 was a simple one. You just kicked a soccer ball from the starting line to the finish line. But it was a start. A few weeks later, I made a digital card flip matching game. Fast forward to today, after a series of little games that slowly increased in quality, I'm now putting the finishing touches on my dream game, an open world RPG called Nightwatch. Quick side note, if you want to check out the developer logs to track the build progress of Nightwatch, you can find a link to the devlog playlist in the description below. But why the history lesson? Well, it was to set up what we'll be talking about today. The most important things to remember when creating a video game. So tip number 1 is understanding your motivation. The first thing you need to ask yourself before diving into game development is, why do I want to build a game? Is it because I want to bring a story to life? Do I want to challenge myself technically? Or maybe I'm aiming to create the next big commercial hit. Understanding your motivation is crucial because it will guide every decision you make during development. For example, if your goal is to learn programming, then focusing on mechanics and code might be more important than fancy graphics. On the other hand, if you're aiming for commercial success, you might need to prioritize visual appeal and user experience. Regardless of your reasons, the most important thing you need to do is make sure they align with your vision for the game and what actually motivates you to work. This tip is crucial and will overlap with almost everything else we'll talk about in this video. Let me break it down based on my experience with game development. If your goal is to make the next big open world game, but your reasons are things like, I want people to think I'm talented, or I want to make lots of money from home, then you might find yourself struggling. These reasons are fleeting and they don't really come from a place of longevity. They're not going to keep you motivated through the tough times. Your reason has to match your goal. For example, if you're looking to make some quick money or just want to say that you've released something, then it probably makes more sense to focus on quick, easy projects with a short turnaround time. These projects might have only 1 or 2 simple gameplay hooks, but if they're engaging, they can be just as rewarding. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that approach. I'm here to encourage you no matter what your goals are. We just need to make sure our motivations align with what we want to create. Otherwise, you might end up sitting on a pile of unfinished projects feeling frustrated and demotivated. On the other hand, if you have a more intrinsic desire to create something truly special, something you yourself would want to immerse yourself in for hours on end, then you may want to consider projects that require deeper thought, a larger learning curve, and greater commitment. Take Nightwatch, the RPG I'm creating, as an example. It's a big game with a lot of intersecting features, and I also work a full-time job. This means I have to put in time where I can find it. If my inspiration didn't match my overall goal, I know that during those times when I actually do have an opportunity to work on the game, I'd probably end up just wasting time watching YouTube or playing other people's video games. So, before you dive into your game development journey, take a moment to reflect on what really motivates you, whether it's the thrill of creating something new, the challenge of solving complex problems, or the satisfaction of seeing your ideas come to life. Make sure your reasons align with your vision. This alignment will be your anchor, keeping you grounded and focused as you navigate the ups and downs of game development. By understanding and aligning your motivation to your vision, you're setting yourself up for success, no matter the size or scope of your project. So take the time to get this right. It will make all the difference in your game development journey, and it's really going to feed into the rest of what we'll cover here. Tip number 2 is to learn and master the tools that are relevant to your project. Once you know why you want to build a game, the next step is figuring out how. This means learning and mastering the tools of the trade. The good news? There are tons of tools out there, from beginner-friendly ones like RPG Maker to industry-standard engines like Unreal and Unity. When you're just starting out, the specific tool you choose isn't as important as learning the game development process itself. So dive in, experiment, and most importantly, keep learning. Branching off from tip number 1, once you've figured out your project scope and what drives you, the next step is to determine your tool of choice. The tools you choose will shape your game development experience, so it's crucial to select the ones that align with your goals and skill level. For me, I had some knowledge of C# and big aspirations for the kind of games I wanted to create. That's why I chose Unreal Engine. Unreal is a powerful tool that allows you to achieve a lot with very minimal coding knowledge thanks to its visual scripting system, Blueprint. With Blueprint, you can create complex gameplay mechanics without writing a single line of code. In fact, there are entire games out there that have been made using visual scripting alone. However, there are trade-offs. While visual coding is incredibly accessible, it can sometimes limit your options when you want to implement something very specific. In those cases, knowing how to write code directly into the engine can be much more efficient and give you greater control. For those just starting out, however, an engine like RPG Maker can be a fantastic choice. RPG Maker allows you to focus on narrative, pixel art, and 2D map design without worrying about complex programming. It's a great way to learn the basics of game design while working within a framework that has been used to create countless successful games. You can concentrate on crafting your story, characters, and world, all while knowing that the underlying game mechanics are solid. However, like all other tools, it's important to recognize its limits. RPG Maker, for example, is perfect if you're looking to create 16-bit style JRPGs, but if your vision extends beyond that, perhaps into 3D worlds or more dynamic gameplay systems, you'll eventually need to expand your horizons. As your skills grow, so too should your toolkit. So learning more advanced engines like Unity or Unreal can open up a world of possibilities, allowing you to create games that push the boundaries of what you thought were originally possible. So when choosing your tools, consider your current skill set, your long-term goals, and the type of game you want to create. Start with what feels manageable, but don't be afraid to switch to more advanced tools as you gain confidence and experience. The important thing is to get started and keep learning. So whether you're using RPG Maker to craft a retro-inspired RPG, or diving into Unity or Unreal to build a sprawling open-world adventure, mastering your tools will empower you to bring your game vision to life. The journey might be challenging, but with the right tools in hand, you're well equipped to tackle whatever comes your way. Tip number 3 is keep your project simple and manageable. Recognize the value of a simple game prototype with basic mechanics. One of the biggest pitfalls in game development is overcomplicating your project. Game development is hard, and every new feature you add introduces more complexity. That's why one of the best pieces of advice is to KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Start with a small, manageable project. It's better to finish a simple game than to get stuck on a complicated one that never sees the light of day. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, didn't you just say we could work on big, grandiose projects as long as we have the right motivation and the right tools? Yes, absolutely, but it has to be done in a very specific way. Let's start by talking about smaller projects first. If your games are quick and easy to make and can be finished in a short amount of time, you can get that satisfying feeling of completing a task. This feeling is incredibly valuable because it elevates your spirits and motivates you to keep going. On the flip side, the disappointment that comes with never finishing anything you set out to create can really hamper your creativity and kill your momentum. But this principle isn't limited to small projects. You can and should apply it to larger projects as well. The key is to break your big project down into manageable pieces. Let's say you're working on an open world RPG. Instead of trying to tackle the entire game at once, break it down into smaller tasks. Maybe this week you focus on the character movement system, and next week you'll finish the dialogue system. But don't stop there. Break those tasks down even further. Today you might add a sprinting mechanic to the locomotion system. Tomorrow you'll work on implementing a stamina bar. The next day you could add fall damage. By treating each of these smaller tasks as mini projects, you'll maintain that sense of accomplishment that comes with completing something, even if it's just a small part of a much larger whole. This approach does two things. First, it keeps you motivated. Every time you complete a task, no matter how small, you get a boost of confidence and a sense of progress. Second, it aligns your workflow with your goals. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the enormity of your project, you're steadily chipping away at it piece by piece. So yes, work on your big ambitious projects, but do it in a way that ensures you're making consistent progress. By breaking your project into smaller, manageable tasks, you can keep your momentum going, and before you know it, All those little pieces will come together to form the larger whole of your dream game. Remember, it's not just about finishing, it's about the journey, and by setting yourself up with small wins along the way, you'll make your journey much more enjoyable and more productive. Tip number 4 is to embrace iteration and feedback and be open to criticism. As you develop your game, remember that it's a process of constant iteration. Your first version won't be perfect, and that's okay. What's important is to get feedback, whether it's from friends, online communities, or playtesters. Use that feedback to improve your game. This iterative process is what will ultimately help you create something truly great. One of the most important parts of game development is embracing this feedback and iterative process. No matter how much you think you've nailed down your game's design, there's always room for improvement, and that's where constructive criticism comes in. Feedback from others can be incredibly valuable because it allows you to see your game from a perspective you might have never considered. When you're deep in the trenches of development, it's easy to become blind to certain issues. You might overlook a clunky mechanic, miss a confusing UI element, or not realize that a part of the game just isn't fun. But when someone else plays your game, they bring a fresh set of eyes. They'll notice things that you've grown accustomed to, and their feedback will help you chop away the fat and highlight issues you never would have noticed on your own. And while constructive criticism isn't always easy to hear, it's vital for refining your game. Instead of viewing it as negative, think of it as a tool to make your game better. Every piece of feedback is an opportunity to improve, to polish your mechanics, tighten your narrative, or enhance your visuals. It's all part of the iterative process that turns a good game into a great one. But feedback is just one side of the coin. The other side is testing. And when I say test your game, I mean test it thoroughly, then test it again. And when you think you're done, test it some more. Testing is the process where all those rough edges are smoothed out, where bugs are caught, and where you ensure that your game not only functions, but also provides a satisfying experience for the player. Think of game testing as a form of quality control. Every time you play your game, you're looking for ways to improve the player experience. Does the game flow well? Are there any parts where players might get stuck or frustrated? Are the controls intuitive? Testing helps you answer these questions and more. Remember, your game will be played by people with different skill levels, playstyles, and expectations. The more you playtest your game, the better you can cater to a wide range of players. And don't be afraid to let others test your game too. The feedback they provide will often be different from what you'd find on your own, giving you valuable insights into how others experience your game. So, with all that being said, the main takeaway is embrace feedback, and don't shy away from criticism. Use it to sharpen your game, to trim away the unnecessary, and to enhance what works. And when it comes to testing, be relentless. Test your game until you're confident that it delivers the experience you envisioned. This process of feedback and playtesting is what will ultimately make your game the best it can be. Tip number 5 is to find a way to stay motivated and finish what you start. The most crucial advice I have is to stay motivated. Game development is a long and sometimes challenging process. It's easy to lose steam, especially when things get tough. But remember, finishing your game, no matter how simple, is a huge accomplishment. Break the process down into smaller milestones, celebrate your progress, and keep pushing forward. Staying motivated throughout the game development process can be one of the biggest challenges you'll face. It's a long journey with ups and downs, and like I said, it's very easy to lose steam, especially when you hit those inevitable roadblocks. But with the right strategies, you can keep your motivation high and see your project through to completion. One of the most effective ways to stay motivated is to celebrate your small wins. Game development is a marathon, not a sprint, and breaking your project into smaller, manageable tasks can help you maintain momentum. Each time you complete a task, whether it's implementing a new mechanic, fixing a bug, or designing a level, take a moment to acknowledge your progress. These small victories add up and give you the energy to keep pushing forward. Another great way to stay inspired is to try other games that are similar to the one you're working on. Playing these games can spark new ideas, provide insight into how certain mechanics are implemented, and remind you why you started your project in the first place. Seeing what others have achieved can reignite your passion and give you the drive to keep going. But it's not all about staying glued to your screen. Taking breaks and getting some fresh air is equally important. When you've been staring at code or a level editor for hours, your mind can start to feel cluttered. Stepping away for a while, whether it's going for a walk, hitting the gym, or simply relaxing outside, can help clear your head. When you're ready to return to your project, you'll often find that you're more focused and have a fresh perspective on any challenges you are facing. Setting a schedule can also be a game changer when it comes to maintaining motivation. Having a structured routine helps you stay on track and ensures that you're constantly making progress. Even if you can only dedicate a few hours each week to your project, having that time blocked out in your calendar makes it easier to build momentum. And as you establish this routine, you'll find that being structured in other aspects of your life, like maintaining a healthy lifestyle, getting enough sleep, and staying organized, will naturally spill over into your game development process. Good habits build discipline, and that discipline will benefit your work immensely. Finally, remember why you started this journey in the first place. Keep your end goal in sight, and remind yourself of the passion that got you here. Game development is challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Every step you take brings you closer to that moment when your game is complete and ready to be shared with the world. So stay motivated by celebrating small wins, draw inspiration from other games, take breaks, and keep a structured routine. With these strategies, you'll not only finish your game, but also enjoy the process along the way. And that, in the end, is what will make your game truly special. So these are some of the most important things to keep in mind before making your first video game. Whether you're just starting out or you've been tinkering for a while, remember to stay focused, keep learning, and most importantly, enjoy the process. After all, game development is as much about the journey as it is about the destination. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on my journey with Nightwatch and other game development tips. And remember, you can find the link to the Nightwatch devlog playlist in the description below. Until next time, keep creating.